Okay, well, I think we're live. So tonight, a little change of pace. Now, I won't be talking very loud because it is kind of late for me, and I don't want to be too loud on this particular topic because I got roommates and people know how I can get worked up when it comes to creationism. But I do have tonight some background noise from our guest here.
From the
There we go. So we have Taylor with us tonight. You guys may know Taylor from Facebook. He's a young Earth creationist, moon hoax denier, non-flat earther. Kind of a weird combo with that. That's like usually it's a trifecta, right? You get the younger creationist, flat earther, and the moon hoax denier. But no, it's just two out of the three. So there's hope for him. Hopefully, we'll be able to ask him questions about creationism and steer him in the right direction. We also got James with us as well. James also from Facebook. He's the tired atheist because well, he's atheist and damn, dude, you always look tired. You need sleep, man. You need to get some sleep. So
That I do. I
you
could
do.
definitely use more sleep.
Yeah. You want to like take a nap while you're doing this? It's cool.
Sometimes I have been known to fall asleep on
Okay.
debates, which is why I got the name the Tired Atheist.
I don't judge, man. I don't judge. So what we're going to do is this, because I can't talk very loud, but I will kind of narrate this. If you want to come in the hangout, you're more than welcome to. You won't be shown unless I know who you are, because reasons. Because you won't even get access to the room, but you can join us. You just go to Zoom and put the meeting idea in. The link is in the video description. Or you can call them by phone. If you call by phone, the number will not be shown, or you can ask questions in the live chat. So it's your choice. Three ways you can ask Taylor questions. I'm going to kind of start it off, maybe, I think. Um, my first question is why do you believe in your creationism? And not from a biblical sense, but from a scientific sense.
what that is the reason why I believe I believe the Bible.
So it's only because of the Bible? There's no actual scientific reason?
Well, correct. I don't believe science has met my burden of proof. I believe the Bible has.
Okay. So so why is it there's a lot of Christians that use the Bible, but most of them don't subscribe to younger creationism? In fact, there's a lot of older creationism out there. There's a lot of Christians that will adhere to old Earth creationism, or special creation, or theistic evolution. They have no problem with that. That's the vast majority of Christians. So why is their interpretation of the Bible different from yours? Can you hear me, Taylor? James, did he put
Oh,
her out?
I think that
He
he
created.
he froze.
There he goes. Yeah, I
I mean,
uh,
Jesus taught creationism.
he taught literal creationism.
The ones with yes, he taught in the beginning, man and woman. He created them. Right. That means a male and female. No, that wouldn't be the case if you believe in stuff like old Earth and evolution. Now, would it? There would be asexual single cell protozoas and stuff floating around. That would contradict what Jesus taught. You can't be a Christian and not believe what Jesus taught by definition.
Well, we kind of do know that humans have had non-asexual reproduction for quite some time, right? It's dimorphic, male and female. They do their thing and babies come out. It didn't need Jesus to tell me that. Unfortunately, I kind of figured that out on my own, and I don't think really Jesus got too much detail on that, by the way. But my question is that the interpretation of religion has been something that has been in quandary for thousands of years. People have their own interpretation of the Bible. People have their own interpretation of even which Bible to use, and there's tens of thousands, 40,000 different denominations out there. One thing that could be objective, one thing that they all can look at, right, and all agree on, if they look objectively at it, is the science, just like math, right? So if they look at the science and they say, oh, look, yes, we do have evolution. We do have a change of allelic frequency. We do have mutations that lead to adaptations. We do have natural selection. We do have morphological changes. We do have changing of body parts. We have all these things. Then at that point, shouldn't somebody say, you know what, maybe I kind of have a misconception about the Bible? Maybe that it's not and I'm not trying to talk somebody out of their religion, but maybe at the very least they should say, maybe I'm not reading it as well as I think that I'm reading it.
I would agree with you. I don't think people read the Bible at all if they believe in stuff like that.
Okay. So
I
so
think
what
if
if
you want to believe that,
so what
you
is
can
about the
just throw your
science?
Bible away.
So what is about the science you disagree with, though?
Oh well, as far as I know, all right, the world's 33 years old.
Wait. How many? 33 years old?
Yeah,
So you're like a last Tuesdayist. It's called.
yeah, almost like a synopsis, right? I know the world's 33 years old because I'm 33 and I've seen 33 years of it.
Uh huh.
But before that, I have to trust somebody to tell me that this is what I accept is right. My own faculties are working. Like we're both on
You
your YouTube channel right now. We understand that, so I can agree with you that we're both on YouTube. But
you don't
that,
trust the fact that your parents had to be alive for them to have you. I mean, if you said that Jesus believes or taught, and I don't remember what he says specifically, but he created man and woman and they did their thing and babies come out, then how did you get here if there was no earth prior to you for your parents to do the nasty?
well, yeah, that's I trust Jesus. So Jesus is saying the man and woman in the beginning. But I've decided to trust Jesus. But without the Bible, like without trusting Jesus, that's what I said. All I know is what I've experienced. That's 33 years. Yeah.
Okay, so you're not saying that the earth is only 33 years old.
No, no, no. I don't believe. I believe the Bible. So that would place it at about at least 7,000.
Okay, and
For that reason,
where does the Bible actually say this?
it doesn't say that. That's why I'll give you approximate. But the Bible does say what the Bible does say though is that there are 6 days He created the world.
And do you know what that word is that meant day back then?
Yom.
Yom. And do you know what a yom? How long a yom actually was?
Yom would be the day.
It
He
depends.
described it in Genesis chapter 1.
It depends if it had an article in front of it or not. If it had a day could be sun up to sundown, a yom, or it could be an indefinite period of time, or it could be 24-hour period. So there's no way to actually say whether it was actually a literal 24-hour days. It was 6 or 7, whatever, indeterminate period of time. That's how the yom in Hebrew would be, from my understanding, for people that are scholarly experts that have told me on this. So you can't go by the fact that it was just said 7 days, because those days could have been a day or 1,000 years, 1,000,000 years, 1,000,000,000 years. There's no way of knowing, because the article in front it makes it such that it's not sun up to sundown or 24 hours.
Well, yeah, if you want to go with what the scholars and stuff are saying, but I'd rather go with what the Word of God, right? I believe it's the Word of God, and He says that He divided the day and the darkest night. And He called the day the light Yom, and He called the day night, or the darkest night. So we got a biblical right here from the Word, from His mouth, of what a day is.
Okay, so what about if the science does disagree with you? You're basically saying that no matter what, there's no evidence that can change your mind, I assume, right?
No, there is. There's possibly a way you can convince me.
Which would be?
I had to be convinced into this, therefore I can't say, well, I absolutely cannot be convinced out of it.
Okay, so what would be? By the way, anybody can ask questions. By the way, welcome, Brian. If you want to ask questions, if you want to call in, people, call in. If you want to ask from the live chat, be my guest. Yes, we're using our indoor voices tonight. So, did you have a question, Brian, for our young Earth creationist?
Yes. Could you state exactly what evidence would convince you? I'm assuming we're talking young Earth creationism versus evolution, correct?
I would assume so, yeah.
Or older.
Okay, so what would convince you that the Earth is older than, let's just throw a number, anywhere from 10,000 to 1,000,000 years old?
You can convince me that the world was created in 8 days, and I would no longer believe the Bible.
Okay. So.
Okay, let me restate my question.
Yeah.
What exactly would convince you that the Earth is anywhere from 1,000,000 years old? Okay, so older than 10,000 to 1,000,000 years old. What evidence would convince you that the Earth is older than what you believe?
Oh, it's simple. My questions could be answered for why I should believe in old Earth.
Okay, so
I already know why I believe in young Earth.
what was your questions then? I mean, We can actually demonstrate using
Okay.
science the age of the Earth. I mean, we know this using actual physics, and unless you say that physics are wrong, you would have to have reasons why you think physics are wrong.
All right, you guys believe in global warming?
Yeah.
All right, so do I. I think that's problematic for one of us, though,
Why?
because we know that global warming is being caused by greenhouse gases, correct?
It depends on who you ask. I believe there's a significant reasons to believe that, but we had a professor on that disagreed with that. But I do think that tetrafluorocarbons and greenhouse gases would be predominantly the major source for global warming, which has been about 1.9, 1.8, I believe, centigrade over the last 100 years, if I remember correctly. 120 years, something like that.
Yeah, so 100 years,
Mhm.
we have a problem, but we didn't have a problem for millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of years.
Well, there's been instances of global warming and global cooling throughout history. We've seen it in the ice cores. We've seen it in tree rings. We know that there's been global changes, but this particular cycle that has been correlated, I think, to my satisfaction, to correlate with greenhouse gases. So I think there is a direct relationship between the two, between it, whether it be
So you saying,
carbon dioxide, methane gas, or tetrafluorocarbons.
so what was the state of the world when all these volcanoes here on the coast were active, exploding and stuff?
The Ring of Fire?
Yes.
Yeah, I think those add to the climate problems as well.
All right, so the global warming problem fixed itself, apparently.
No, I mean, global warming has been increasing literally for the last 100 plus years. I mean, it's almost at 2 degrees more than it was consistently. Matter of fact, if you look at the graph, there's a very interesting graph you can look at. And what it does is every year it plots it has like the months, right? And so January, February, March, April, May, and it plots all the peaks, the highest temperatures for the year in a circle. And if you actually watch each year, it starts off like green, and then it gets yellow, and then it gets redder, and it actually gets bigger and bigger, signifying that the peaks are overall on the average higher every year. So you can actually see that over 100 years, we have gone from minus 1.8, minus 1.9 to almost 2 degrees centigrade greater difference than it was before. So there is definitely global warming. I don't think anybody.
Yeah, no, I can see that with my own eyes.
Mhm.
But what I can't see with my own eyes is a million years ago, or a couple million years ago, with all these volcanoes popping off, right, releasing all kinds of garbage in the atmosphere, and nothing happening, unless global warming fixed itself.
Well, no, volcanoes usually cause the opposite. Volcanoes will actually block sunlight, or cause a cooling effect, right? Because you have less sunlight in the Earth.
So the gases released from the volcanoes didn't cause global warming.
Well, you have to look at differing effects, right? What happens when you block sunlight? You have less sunlight hitting the ground, right?
The overcast, it probably
Yeah.
cools.
So that's going to be the more detrimental effect. But it doesn't really. Those are kind of irrelevant. If we wanted to like show you the facts, right? The way we would approach it would be saying something along the lines of, look, we can actually measure how old the Earth is using radiometric dating, very reliable dating that we understand very, very well. In order to say that the dating is wrong, you have to actually say that the physics is incorrect, which no young Earth creationism has ever done. Matter of fact, I have talked to Dr. Humphreys on this, right? Dr. Russell Humphreys. He advocates for what's called accelerated decay. And I've asked him for his data on it, which there is none. He has written about me in the Journal of Creation. I mean, he definitely knows who I am. He wrote a response to the Journal of Creation because of me, Dr. Henke, and Dr. Lechelt's videos that we did on helium diffusion rates. So I have contacted him many times and asked him, where is this information for accelerated decay? And do you want to know what his answer is? His answer is this: accelerated decay exists because it must exist, because the Earth is 6,000 years old. This is called circular reasoning.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that. I'd say that
these are the experts of the young Earth creationism we're talking about. They have no data to support their narrative. Zero. They believe in.
I don't believe they're experts.
Well, he has a legit PhD. No, Russell's is a legit PhD. I mean, he's not from no mill. He has a really legit actual education.
He'd have to convince me, because I believe God, right? I believe that's the expert. He created everything. I don't care what Kent Hovind or Ken Ham say. I think they're creation science might be a joke, to be honest.
Well, it definitely is. But that's what they're using to try to spread the narrative of creationism, right?
Yeah, and I see for what it is. What it is to get they don't want evolution being taught in schools. It's just an agenda.
So do you think evolution should be taught in school?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it. I want to publish what my kid does.
And you told me before we went on air, you tell me what you learned in evolution, and what you probably, I would assume, didn't agree with. So what would it be, something that you
Well, I
think
don't
that you
need to agree with
learned?
it. It's all obsolete anyway. That was in 1998. Now it's completely different.
Really? What's changed?
Well, in anthropology, they've taken a new route. The Denisovans,
Okay.
the Neanderthals are younger now than Homo sapiens.
That's
Homo
true.
sapien the elder is what happened to him.
And they found more species of them too. They found that the Denisovians have been actually, there's more of them than they thought, and more spread out than they thought. There's just a recent article on that. But that's these things are still indicative of human lineage, right? I mean, we still could go back and trace back human lineage to hundreds of thousands, if not millions of years. First humans are like 1 point something million years ago, the very very first early hominids. So we know that those things are way older than 7,000 years. So regardless if we have different lines of phylogeny, they might change between hybridogenesis or Homo izasker or whatever there's so many different types of Homo species. But whether we came from Homo hybridogenesis or and one of the other ones, it makes really no difference. They're still very, very old. They're still way older than 7,000 years, right?
It does though, because I was told that evolution was a fact.
Well,
and I know right now, if I give you an example, like we're on Facebook.
Okay.
Will this fact ever change?
We're not on Facebook. We're on my channel now. Remember?
I mean, we're on YouTube. Will this fact ever change?
What fact?
That we're on Facebook right now.
No, that's immutable.
All right. Well, the evolution has changed.
What do you think evolution means?
Change over time.
Okay. Well, it's allelic frequency change over time, right? There's been change of the alleles, which is variations of a gene. So in a population, you have a specific gene that you're looking at. That gene has changed, and the reason it changes is through mutations, right? And then if the organism can adapt, or I should say the population will adapt, organisms will adapt, populations adapt, then those will continue to live on, and they'll become more adapted to their environment through selective pressures. We see this happen all the time. I mean, this is something we know happens in every species on the planet. It's not even a matter of does it happen. It's like it happens every single species in every single planet. If not, everybody would be clones. We know that you have different genes than your parents because of mutations. That's a change of allelic frequency. That's evolution.
I don't have a problem with evolution. I have a problem with the theory of evolution. I think the biggest problem in the theory of evolution is the evolutionists have the biggest problem with each other. The theory of evolution, because it changes so much.
Like what? I don't know what's actually changed. It gets more refined. We learn more. We understand more, and it gets better. Just like physics. I mean, we don't use Newtonian physics to put a satellite in orbit. We use relativity, right? Because we understand that you have to account for relativistic effects for GPS, both special and general relativity, matter of fact. So we understand that we learn more. So evolution, just like any other theory, we know more than we did before, but nothing fundamental has changed. Nothing's any different than the 60s, 70s, or 80s for the most part. It's still the same theory, modern evolutionary synthesis.
But the theory, you saying the theory hasn't changed? Or are you saying the word hasn't changed to mean something else?
Well, the word was a little bit different when back in the 19th century. There was something called evolutionism, but it doesn't exist any longer. But
yeah, the origin.
It was an early precursor to Darwinism, but as far as like the theory of evolution, it's still modern evolutionary synthesis combined with the descent with modification. So it's basically the fact that we know that genes will change. We know that populations will adapt. We know that this will cause various phenotypical changes that selective pressures can act upon. We know that body types change. We know that the morphological changes can occur. All these things that we know exist, that's the theory of evolution. The theory of evolution is this in a nutshell. Basically this. We want to explain our observation of extant species, meaning that why do we see the amount of species we do in living, right, extant? The theory of evolution explains that observation. That's all it does. It says this is why there's this many species. There's 7-8 million extant animals. Why? Because the theory of evolution, right? Because they'll come from other species through various processes called speciation, whether it be allopatric speciation, parapatric, sympatric. There's various types of speciation. It doesn't matter. It's just that you have species now developing that are branching off. In what's this cladogenesis, where you have one species that has now. Listen, let me explain to you this way and see if it makes sense to you. And then you can go, oh well, at least it makes sense. So I have a population, okay, and that population, let's say, had like 10,000 members, right? And you have a big mountain in front of it, and some of the population goes this way, and some of the population goes that way. Now, over time, in each individual population, they're going to experience different selective pressures. Temperature changes, weather conditions, plants going to change, fauna going to change, diet's going to change. A lot of things are going to change. Predators will change because where you are locality-wise, geographically, there's different situations. So you can you at least picture now you have two different populations that are being subjected to different selective pressures, right? And they're going to adapt differently. Color changes, right? Color variation, size changes, pheromone change, whatever the changes are, they're going to be different, such that over time, those two divergent populations will now become new species from the parent species, that they're no longer able to reproduce with any member of the original one, if there was one, or with each other. So if you have the population of 10,000, 5,000 went this way, 5,000 went that way, over thousands of years, you take a member of this population and you take a member of the other population. You guys can't see it because you're not watching the outside feed, but you take one population, one species from each. They're not going to be reproductively viable. It's called reproductively isolated from each other. That's what the theory predicts. And guess what we see? That's called ring speciation, which is a form of allopatric speciation. So none of that has changed at all. By the way, I got a super chat. Let me read this real quick, and then we'll get back to Taylor. Sorry.
Yeah, I've been watching the comments. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, Rez says 10 Australian. Explaining evolution to creationists is like playing chess with a pigeon. No matter how good you are at chess, the pigeon is going to knock over the pieces, shit on the board, and strut around like one. Most time I would agree with you. I happen to kind of like Taylor. He's really cool. I'm enjoying conversation with him. I think he really does believe what he believes. I don't think he's trying to be dishonest.
I do.
Yeah.
That's my point.
Yeah.
Because I don't take things at face value. Like when I see those creationists you were talking about, I think of them as the Conorists until they prove to me that they actually believe in God.
No, I get that. I agree with you on that totally.
Right, and that's the same way with these evolutionists. I think they're a religion, and they want me to believe their religion. Because I know where the term creationist came from Charles Darwin writing back home, going, "They'll never believe me, those creationists." In a letter, and he said nobody did believe him. He was under intense scrutiny for being a theological major and having no education in this field. His buddy was a lawyer, and then they
he did go to school. No, he had an education. I mean, he definitely had an education.
Where?
Oh, I don't remember what school he went to. Was it?
I don't either. Because in my research on Charles Darwin, he went to Christ College at Cambridge and gained a
Cambridge. Yeah, Cambridge.
He was a master theologian. He gained a Master of Divinity.
Yeah. Well, I didn't say that he was in biology, but he did get an education. But he did have some training in it. But he was an expert in. He could draw. He understood the concepts. He came up with an idea that the biggest thing that Darwin gave to us, a lot of people don't even recognize, and this is going to sound odd.
Natural selection.
No, not even that. The biggest thing I think, and again, many of my listeners may not even know this, but this is my opinion. There's something called teleonomic and teleonometry and oh my god, I can't even think. I'm so tired. Teleonomic versus teleological. There we go. I had to pause there for a second, right? Brain not kicking into gear. So teleological and teleonomic. So the teleological approach to these things were that it appealed to the design of a designer, of a god, right? They looked at the nature and they looked at the things out there and they said, hey, you look at these things seem to have an order to them. They seem to have a design to them, and that they call that a teleological approach. What Darwin said was, no, they have the appearance of design, but there's a ways to explain these things teleonomically that do not require an intelligent agent. So it doesn't. I'm not saying that he got rid of the intelligence agent. All he showed was there is a viable mechanism by which, in natural means, you could actually create these types of things without having a teleological designer. I think that was the greatest thing that Darwin ever gave to humanity, more than anything else. Because before that, nobody ever think that. Nobody ever thought, hey, look at, we're gonna posit something other than a grand designer, a prime mover. Nobody thought that way because that's what the paradigm was. But he came along and said, no, I have a way of explaining this, using teleonomics rather than teleological things. So. Anyways, that's my little side note there.
But if you read The Origin on Species, you notice that Charles Darwin makes many citations to other people in the field.
Well, yeah, of course. I mean,
because there were other people in the field. That's something.
But you do realize we don't subscribe to Darwinism, right? I'm not a Darwinist. Darwinism is defunct. I mean, we don't. That's not the theory of evolution. Okay,
that's correct. It was scrutinized from the gate, and it wasn't by creationists. It was by other evolutionists.
And they realized that he was right. I mean, he got a lot of things wrong. Don't get me wrong, but you got to remember he didn't understand genes, right? He didn't know what a gene was. He didn't know what DNA was. Now DNA had been
gradualist.
If I remember correctly, DNA had been discovered, but it didn't get back to him yet, and they really didn't know what DNA was. But it had been discovered during his lifetime. The shape of it wasn't until later with Crick and Watson, but.
Also, thing to remember is they were called naturalists in his day. Most of those people there was no evolutionary degree to be had. You didn't get a degree as a scientist. You were considered a naturalist.
Yes.
And most of the fields of science, a lot of those fields of science that we have today, like botanists, geology, and what Darwin did, those were done by members of the clergy that would, in their spare time, go out and investigate. And that's how we got geology. That's how, we've got botany, study of plant life, and what have you. So, in short, Darwin was learned in his field. He wasn't operating in a vacuum. Okay, he was educated, and his peers even respected his methodology and his scrutiny and his attention to detail and his source methods. So he was respected. It wasn't as if he was a fringe theorist.
No, not by any means. Yeah.
Where are you guys getting this stuff from?
Oh, that's just pretty common stuff.
It's pretty common. Because I know Charles Darwin was citing references. I read all through his book. He's citing references, right? H.G. Wells, Dr. H.G. Wells, he was a naturalist, right? Baruch Spinoza, 200 years before, was a naturalist.
Yes. Most of them were naturalists.
So there were naturalists trained by Jesuits, like Spinoza.
Yeah. Yeah, there's nothing really too controversial.
Charles Darwin didn't get his studies into the field in his lifetime. Ernest Haeckel was kicked out of his college in his lifetime.
Well, Ernest Haeckel didn't do anything wrong. I'm convinced this whole narrative that Haeckel did anything wrong is just nonsense. He was a brilliant drawer, zoologist, illustrator, one of the best that ever lived, and he did nothing wrong. All he did was try to show embryonic. He tried to show.
Why did you think that was a fraud?
But there's no fraud involved. He wasn't trying to defraud anybody. He was trying to show the embryology of various things by enhancing various portions of it to exaggerate through illustrative purposes. He wasn't trying to change. He wasn't even an evolutionist. He was running something called ontology recapitulates phylogeny, I believe it was, wasn't it?
He wasn't an evolutionist, but he supported Darwin. He was one of Darwin's only supporters.
Yeah, but the approach that was ontology recapitulates phylogeny, which would be recapitulation theory, was basically that every embryo goes through different stages relating back to their phylogenetic line, which we found out doesn't really happen, although there's some similarities. We have the pharyngeal gill slits, right? When we're in embryonic stage, mammals have these gill slits. But other than that, it was just a theory that he thought, but his hypothesis, it was wrong. But his illustrations were amazingly accurate. Matter of fact, when they actually developed microfinch and they actually had the actual microfinch embryonic slides, they were very, very, very similar. So Haeckel did nothing wrong. This narrativity did is just ridiculous. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think Apologia did a video on this.
that was already addressed in Haeckel's
Ontogeny,
time. In fact, when they investigated it, there was no fraud. In fact, the accusations of fraud only appear if you actually search it out. It only appears on young Earth creationist websites.
Yeah.
Also, think about a box. Think about a box of cereal. When you look at a box of cereal as a disclaimer, the representation of the cereal on the picture is not representation of actual size.
Right. That's all it was. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's all it is.
To show detail. Exactly. And by the way, it's ontogeny. Ontogeny. Yeah. Not ontological. I don't know. Whatever.
Steve,
ontogeny recapitulates phylogeny. These are hard words, by the way, especially when you like philosophy, so you say ontology a lot, right?
Because you guys are telling me that Charles Darwin has all this education. You're saying that Ernest Haeckel wasn't, and it's contradicting things that I don't read in Young Earth Creation. I've learned from Darwin himself on the Journey of the Beagle. He authored the anthropologist in West Africa.
Was it the SMS Beagle?
And he studied. The Journey on the Beagle. Mm-hmm. He tells us where he learns anthropology in Africa and his visit there, and he details that, and he details his time in Australia, then he details his time studying in the Galapagos, but he doesn't detail going to school anywhere for naturalism. But you guys, like I've heard you guys say, well, it's pretty common knowledge that he did, but he didn't, according to him.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm willing just to arguendo say, look at Darwin was a satanic baby-eating, absolute moron that didn't know what the hell he was talking about, smoked dope all the time, and just was, whatever. It makes no difference to modern evolutionary synthesis. And so I'd rather talk about what we know now rather than what happened, 150 years ago, because it's irrelevant. It really makes no difference. We don't go by Darwinism.
Conflicting. There's conflicting stories of this, conflicting stories of that.
Yeah,
that's why I don't
see any conflicting stories, but go, James.
Well, I see a conflict in Charles Darwin education, like his record of only going to Christ Cambridge and then journeying around the world on a 3-year voyage on the Beagle.
Yeah, but he had a pretty good he still had an education. I mean, he wasn't like he was uneducated. Go ahead, James.
He traveled on. He went around the world on 3 years.
Taylor has mentioned this before in past conversations. I'd love to just ask him a follow-up. It's still on the same line. He has referred to evolution as a religion.
Yes.
Taylor, I was just curious what your thoughts are in that realm.
I believe evolution is religion. I know where evolution came from.
Where do you believe it came
from? I don't practice any religion.
From the people that innovated themselves.
Why would it be religion, though? I don't practice any religion. I'm not a religious person. So how can my understanding of science, because it's science, it's not a religious practice, it's understanding of genetics and biology, how is that possibly a religion?
Evolution is it's a break off. Like a Jehovah's Witness. That came from the Protestant, which came from the Catholic, which came from the yada yada, all the way back. That's exactly.
I think we're going off into the weeds here.
Yeah, this is really kind of strange. By the way, there's a lot of people on the outside that have been wanting to come in, but for some reason, I don't know.
Yeah, they don't.
It's not that difficult.
Yeah, I don't think you were ready for that, to be honest.
Ready for what?
For that evolution came from Isaac Leferreur's work.
No, evolution came from science that, again, populations change because of evolutionary processes like mutations, adaptation, natural selection, genetic drift. That's evolutionary theory. What you're talking about is completely irrelevant to the science. This is why. Yeah,
it's just coincidental that they all taught from the same school.
It wouldn't make a difference. Again, they could all be Satanists. I personally wouldn't care. The thing is that when I find interesting with young creationism is that they literally would rather try to come up with a conspiracy theory than look at the actual hard science. And I find that to be very interesting because the hard science is the hard science, right? Like, why is it that we can measure meteorites to 4.5 billion years, right? Why is it that we have 12 different types of radiometric dating that can verify this to be the case? Why is that? It has nothing to do with evolution.
I don't know all this. In order for me to believe this, I would like to scrutinize it.
Okay.
Okay. Real quickly, Taylor, I added you to a Facebook group called Creationism. Okay, it's got it's jam packed with scientists in paleontology, cosmology. Ali Cross is in there. Bill Ludlow's in there.
They got Bill.
If it's got biology.
Wait, if it's got Bill, who wants to be in that group?
I've been in this group.
Bill is listening right now, by the way.
The thing about me, I don't take anything at face value. I don't take young Earth creationists at face value. The same way I don't take, well, we can do this, we can do that, we can do that. And I'm like, okay, let's scrutinize that.
All right, so we have a question from the audience.
Never listen to us.
You do realize that your argumentation is young Earth creationism. Yeah, you've already accepted.
We have a question from the audience.
I think you're going into the weeds. I said I take nothing at face value, whether it be young Earth creationism, whether it be anything. I believe the Bible.
Taylor, we get that. We have a question from the audience. Hang on. This is from the wonderful Mr. Bill Ludlow himself, who became a superstar after he debated Ken Hovind on this very channel. Now he forgot about us and doesn't really care about the little people. But that's okay. He's still amazing, and I think he's like one of the best paleontologist explainers that I know. So good for you, Bill, you famous fuck. Okay, he says, why would someone who doesn't understand it want to scrutinize it? Which is a good question. Here's a situation where we're talking about things that I don't think you ever really been exposed to before. No offense, Taylor. I don't think that you could probably...
That's the best question.
So why is it that you think that you can scrutinize something that you're really not that familiar with? I think it's a great question, actually. Yeah.
That's because that's what scientists claim to do when they come up with these theories.
Elaborate more.
Okay, Steve, could you? We'll have to go to the beginning. Can you explain what a scientific theory is and how it's developed and the process?
You asking involved? Me or him? You know I can. Or are you asking him?
No, Steve. Oh. You're going to have to go from the very beginning.
Yeah, sure. A scientific theory is a well-substantiated body of evidence and facts that explains natural phenomenon that makes continually accurate predictions. So basically, it is a body of facts, and then we can use and say, okay, this explains a natural phenomenon, and it also can use to predict things. Evolution explains and it predicts. We understand that given selective pressures, species will change. It predicts that. We understand that if you have natural selection, it'll select for certain more beneficial traits over deleterious traits given with respect to the environment. So we know these things. It predicts things.
Okay, so when you get someone comes in and goes, hey, there's a dark matter. It exists.
How are we going from evolution to dark matter?
You don't understand it.
No, hang on.
So don't scrutinize it.
Well, hang on. How do we jump from... I do know astrophysicists, a lot of them. I'm actually going to have Dr. Kroon on this week, ask an astrophysicist. But how did we jump from evolution to dark matter? That's what I like to kind of know.
I was making an analogy. We'll go back to the evolution. Because I love evolution. I want to stay there.
Well, real quick with dark matter, the only reason they call it dark matter is because the only thing we know that causes changes in gravity that can affect the space-time is mass. So we know it has to have some kind of mass there. That's just, there's nothing else we know that does that. And it emits no photons. It's dark.
Why scrutinize something you don't understand?
Well, why not just let it be? I'm not scrutinizing anything, though. I mean, we all should scrutinize, but I mean, the things that you're scrutinizing just seem to make very little sense to me.
So it's right. There's somebody saying something, and there's someone saying something else. So should I scrutinize who's right and who's wrong, or should I just pick one?
Well, I would learn about the topic before you kind of scrutinize. Right?
That's why I scrutinize everything.
Bill says he doesn't know Photo's argument. I'll do a separate episode on Photo's argument if you want one day. It's not an easy topic, and Photo's argument can be very triggering to biologists because it's a philosophical argument, and biologists usually get very triggered when they have to think about things philosophically. But Photo's argument, real quick for Bill, goes something along the lines of: if you have two coextensive traits, that you can have one trait without the other, they're literally coextensive, then what is it that natural selection is actually selecting for? If you have two coextensive traits, that you have what's called intentionality of a sentence, which means that if you put one word in, it could change the actual truth value of the proposition. So if I put in, like, for example, Lois Lane knows Superman can fly, okay, That's true, fictionally speaking. But Superman is Clark Kent, so those are coextensive traits. But if I put in Clark Kent in that statement, if I switch out those coextensive traits, the truth value proposition changes, because now it becomes Lois Lane knows Clark Kent can fly, which she doesn't. So there's a tensionality issue there. So the photo argues, how is it that nature determines between the intentionality of two coextensive traits of which it actually picks? It's a very interesting argument. It doesn't mean that natural selection doesn't happen, but it basically does make a very strong argument that natural selection isn't much of a theory. It doesn't really explain anything. And he has a good point for that. This is going to trigger the biologists in the room. But the way to look at it, I'm blatantly going to steal Ozzy's description of this, because he has a really good analogy. So I'm just ripping him off hardcore, and I'm not going to give Ozzy credit for it, because, I'm like that. But the way Ozzy would explain it was, and this was several years ago, but if I told you, James, I know a way for you to make money. It's a foolproof way to make money. And you tell me, okay, well, what do I got to do? I go, well, here's my theory. What you got to do is you got to buy low and sell high. Okay. That clearly is a true statement, right? If you buy low and sell high, you make money, right? But does it really tell you anything? Does it really explain to you anything? No, it's a truism.
No.
But it doesn't explain anything. Natural selection, photo argues, doesn't really explain anything. It doesn't do any heavy lifting. It always has to rely on something else. But, Helena hosted a hangout really long time ago with that. Yeah, Vladimir. But that was many, many, many years ago. So every so often, photos argument makes its rounds, because a lot of people like to come trigger the biologist. But anyways. By the way, when you've been around as long as I have, you pick up a lot of shit. Trust me. And real quick, Taylor, how many people you think are watching by now? Do you know?
I don't know. I see the comments. I've been reading some of them.
But we had 4 people watching on Facebook when I was trying to talk.
We're on Facebook too?
No, but how many people you think are watching now? We had 4 before on Facebook. How many do you think we got on YouTube?
I don't know. I don't see the numbers.
Well, guess. Take a wild guess. It's less than 1 billion, yes.
Huh?
It's less than 1 billion.
It's less than 1 billion?
Yeah.
7?
7 billion? 7 people?
7 people.
7 people? A little bit more. Guess. Go up.
8?
Go higher. Come on.
I'm going to say 125.
Higher than that.
Oh, right on.
132.
Thanks for watching.
So you're going to be a famous young Earth creationist one day.
I'm not a young... Look at...
Young Earth Christian.
Yeah, thank you. I'm a Bible believer. I believe the Bible.
Yeah.
All right. If I could prove to you today that the world was 6,000 years old, that would have nothing to do with the Bible, now would it? It would just mean the world's 6,000 years old, like you're saying. I can see the natural selection in front of me. I have no reason to scrutinize natural selection at all.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the Bible is irrelevant to me. If the Bible says 1 + 1 = 3, I'm going to go with 1 + 1 = 2. The Bible isn't something that I think is accurate. I think the Bible has a lot of errors in it. I think there's scriptural errors. I think there's scribal errors. I think there's translation errors. It's not a reliable source of information. Now, does it have things in it that are true? Sure. But it's definitely not a scientific source. Nobody should look at the Bible and go, oh, look, we're going to take our science from this. The science says the Earth is 4.5 billion years old. That's what I'm going to go with every single time, because that's demonstrable. I can see it evidentially, because all the evidence, every shred of evidence points to that from every discipline. There's not one scientific discipline on the planet that doesn't indicate, or that can indicate the Earth age, that doesn't indicate 4.5 billion years. Not one. You don't find one going, oh, hey, in geology, the Earth is around, looks like it's around 4 million. And in biology, it looks like it's around 4 billion. And in physics, it looks like it's 2,000 years old. You don't find any discrepancies like that. There's a consilience, which just means that a consilience is a fancy word for a bunch of different areas of science, all having the same general findings that they come to.
Steve, I've noticed when I talk to young Earth Christians, and that's a term that I use that Taylor seems to like.
Yeah, no, I'm cool with that. He said he prefers calling that, and I respect that. I just call Young Earth Creationism a title because nobody's not going to know what a Young Earth Christian is. So.
Oh, you're good.
Yeah.
They a lot of times they tell me that they'll change the results or they'll throw out the tests if it doesn't match the Bible. So
Yes.
if they're looking for a 6,000 year result, if they don't get it, they toss it out.
Yeah.
Because it's not that I won't immediately toss it out. That's dishonest, but I believe the Bible already taken that position. So if something comes my way and it's gonna say your Bible's not true, I'm gonna go, well, I need to believe that first.
Okay, that's fair enough. But for a scientist,
like what you said about this, would you like to point error in translation?
Oh, hang on. I can understand that from your position somewhat. I'm going to give you a little bit of leeway here. I cannot accept that from a scientist. Okay, a scientist they cite what's called a waiver, a faith statement, a statement of faith. And what the statement of faith is basically that any evidence that goes against young Earth creationism can be outright dismissed by fiat. That is nullified. It doesn't exist, or it's wrong. Now, for a scientist, but the very nature of science is that you cannot do that. You have to remain objective. So when you have a young Earth creationist scientist doing that, to me, they are no longer a scientist. They've taken their scientist robes and they've hung them up and they said, you know what, I'd rather spew bullshit than actually put out actual science, because I've talked to the young Earth creationist scientist. You can go read the young Earth creationist scientist. You can see they're full of crap if you understand the topic. And if you don't, you can still ask people that do, and they will point it out to you. They're happy. We know so many experts, and they'll go step by step and go, look, this guy's wrong here, here, and here. And it's at the point where it's not just I think. I used to, when I first got into this, I used to think at least they were, I think they were misled, right? I think they were just not as informed as they should have been. But after doing this for 6 years, I got to tell you, I've changed my position. I think that they do know they're full of crap. I really do. They cannot put out what they put out and not at their level and not have some understanding what they're putting out is completely bullshit.
Steve, we've already established this. They have a political motive to get evolution out of school.
No, at least you agree with that. And no, I'm not. I can't fault you for that. I mean, if you recognize that, I'm impressed. So I give you props.
Well, why wouldn't I recognize that? That's apparently the case.
It's to you.
But I don't get that.
It is.
I don't think that the evolutionists are any better than that. I think they want to maintain this. Well, we have evolution, and you see all the crap on the internet. They're fucking this, and the Genovesians are older now, and the Genovesians are younger now. And the Neanderthals lived in Israel. Then they're breeding, and they answer all these questions with these little internet articles. The creationists do the same thing.
I think my meeting idea is wrong, so I'm going to fix this meeting idea real quick, so you guys can actually, so maybe we can get some.
Yeah, someone wants to join.
Yeah. So,
but see, like when you said there's the scribal and mistranslations, I'd like you to point me some. I got the Novum Testamentum right here.
Oh, I would have to get other people in here for that. No offense, that's not my jam.
And then I got the right. See, that's why I want to learn Greek.
I fixed
my faith is only as good as like it's a shield, right? The Bible says. So I believe that my faith is a shield, that I can go into a fray of atheists and people. They're gonna prove me wrong, right? And they're not gonna prove me wrong.
No, well, I'll tell you what. We will arrange a hangout for Bible scholars to come in and have a discussion with you on that.
Yes, I would love to talk to some Bible scholars about the Novum Testament.
Okay, we can raise that.
Taylor,
oh, we got some people coming in. Holy crap!
Would you admit that it's better to not try to change the results to fit something that's preconceived conclusion, but to rather let the results speak for themselves?
No.
You don't think so?
Why not?
Yeah, why not?
Wait, what?
Well, do you think it's better? Do you think it's better to change the results?
Telling me to take things at face value?
No, he's saying that you should not change the results to fit your narrative. That's confirmation bias.
Yes, correct. Yeah, if you see if you're trying to get like evangelized to the point where you're just trying to make a comfortable environment where you don't want your kids to learn evolution and stuff, you're not helping them. You're hurting them. They're not going to be strong in faith. They're going to be weak.
What I mentioned, Taylor, was
they're doing more hurt.
Would it be fair for me to set up a test where I automatically have the conclusion in mind, and if it doesn't meet the conclusion, then I just throw the results out until it gets the
what kind of test is that? That's not even a test. Why bother do the test if you do that? There's no purpose to do the test. You're not testing for anything if you not accept the conclusions of the test.
I'm just pointing that when young Earth Christians presuppose the Bible and they throw out the results that don't line up with the Bible, They're not actually doing science.
Totally agree. Yeah, I mean, look at it this way, and then we'll get some questions here. Right, well, a bunch of people just popped in here. Taylor, like I know you don't believe in the moon landing, but you're not a flat earther. So when a flat earther says, "Hey, I'm going to test the shape of the Earth, but if it doesn't come out the way that I think it should be flat, I'm just going to throw away the results," you would think that's pretty messed up, right? You would even
Yeah, that's garbage.
Okay, but that's what the young Earth
And
creationist
this is
does.
the point.
There's no difference.
When did I do that?
No, not you specifically, but I mean the young Earth creationist as a whole. That's what they tend to do. I mean,
All right. I'm gonna give you an example right now. All right. The oldest pre-hominid fossil is the Grecopithecus, and it was found in 1937.
well, there's the Paleolithic. I talk about Paleolithicus catalonicus. That was 12 million. That was lived like 12 million years ago.
Grecopithecus.
I don't know Grecopithecus, but I do know Paleolithicus catalonicus.
Yeah, you don't, because it's not in the fossil record. Because why? It went to the University of Toronto in 2017. It dated at 7.5 million years old.
No, Paleolithicus goes back 12 million years. So
It's not in the fossil record. It's because nobody wants it there. Simply.
I don't know what it is. I mean, like I said, why would it matter?
You should.
We can find literally, and this was actually what they did in 2000, I believe, 15, I think, was they went to Spain to go find Paleolithicus catalonicus, which was the precursor for all members of Homoidea. So all the great apes were related to this particular species, and they knew where to find it. Just like when Neil Shubin went to go find Tiktaalik, he said, "I want to find these features. Where am I going to find it at?" He went to island off of Nova Scotia, I believe it was, and he found exactly what he was looking for. These evolution made predictions.
That's convenient.
Yeah,
but I'm wondering why there's a fossil that's been around since 1937. It's found in Europe, right, in Bulgaria, and it's been around since 1937, and it's been tested now. Right, in 2017.
What's the name
and it's
of
like, yeah, this thing's 7.5 million years old,
What's the name of it?
And in between 1937 and 2017.
Yeah, no, what's the name of it again?
Grecopithecus.
Grecopithecus, okay. So I am not familiar with this, and when I'm not familiar with something, I'm not going to pull out my ass. So
yeah, nobody's familiar with it. That's my point, Steve, because there's all these fossils have entered and been rejected. And some may remain like the Piltdown man.
So hang on. So Grecopithecus is a hominoid originally identified as a single mandible found in 1944. So it was a mandible, it was a mouth, lower jawbone or lower jaw thing. Since then, analysis of two specimens dated to 7.2 million years ago has led to suggestions that Grecopithecus may have been the oldest direct ancestor of humans, excluding the chimpanzee's lineage, which is pan-troglodytes. Alternately, the last common ancestor of both humans and chimpanzees. This is actually very familiar this sounds kind of like what's called pan-prior. Yeah, it's not excluded from the fossil record. You can go to Wikipedia and look it up. So I don't know what your complaint is. It literally.
You know how many fossils entered the fossil record in between 1944 and 2017?
I don't know what that means. What do you mean by entered the fossil record?
They entered and exited the fossil record, like Homo rhodesianus.
Yeah, I mean those are all hominoid species that we still know are part of the fossil record. I mean, this was 7.2 million years ago. This is before humans, right? Humans have only been around a few million years, and this is literally, if you really take the very first precursors of the Homo group, would be So this was 5 million years past that. So I don't know what.
So it's really old.
Yeah,
it's not only old; it's a really old find.
Yeah, well, Paleolithicus catalonicus is 12 million years old. So
12?
Yeah, 12 to 13 million years old. Yeah.
When was he found?
I think that was found in 2015, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so this guy was found in 1944, and nobody gave a shit about him. But they gave a shit about Lucy.
That's not what the Wikipedia says. So I just gone off Wikipedia. It seems to not say what you say it says. But anyways, we got a hand up here.
You didn't know about it.
Yeah, dude, I will tell you, I'm the first person. If I don't know something, I am happy to say I have no idea what you're talking about. I hate bullshit.
Well, I didn't expect it.
Yeah, you won't find me doing that. Yeah.
I talk to evolutionists all the time about this Greco-Pithecus, and they'll go, "Who the hell? Greco-Pithecus?
Okay,
Greco-Pithecus?"
does it?
Uh, uh,
Okay, in the grand scheme of
It's pretty
things,
minor,
first
it
of
looks
all,
like.
there's no such thing as evolutionists. Number one.
No,
Number
look, I'm an
two.
evolutionist. I don't mind that.
Okay, yeah,
But
that's
whatever.
fine. Okay, number two, can we focus on the fossils that we do know have confirmed and have dated? And we have a massive
Lots of
treasure
them.
trove.
Yeah,
Pick
lots
one.
of
no,
them.
I don't buy
Hey,
that because I want to know.
let's talk about what
Oh,
was found in the Philippines just recently. Get
let's
Professor Downard in
get
here.
yeah, get the
Well,
Pasadena.
we need to get
Last question.
Lolo. Yeah, we have a hand up real quick. Let's get Gregory in here real quick. He has actually put up his hand like a good little
Hey,
Zoom
I
person.
typed that. Thank you, Steve.
We'll get you next, Puff. Don't worry. Greg, you want to?
That was me that typed hand up.
Oh, no, it says the little hand symbol comes up. The little blue symbol. You have to put a little blue. Do you see a little hand that comes up? You guys don't see it on the outside, but. Greg, is your mic working?
Yeah, it's on. Y'all
Alright.
can hear me fine?
Yeah, what's your question?
Yeah, I actually had a question for Taylor here. I think you and I have talked once before, Steve, and we didn't get too far into it, but I was a YEC. I was a Young Earth Creationist Bible teacher for 7 years. And I was very convinced, just like Taylor seems here, that the Bible is true. And my question essentially is Romans 1:20. It says, "For the invisible things of him," speaking of God, "from the creation of the world are clearly seen." And then it goes on to describe how they're clearly seen in the continuing verse, "being understood by the things that are made." But it seems like whenever we're bringing up, topics within the earth, within supposed creation, the things that are made that are counter evidences against the Bible, he's using the Bible as a convincing source. But the Bible seems to indicate that it and what is, earth and the universe and everything are supposed to coincide. So I'm just wondering how you reconcile that, and why aren't you trying to use science to verify the Bible instead of just starting from a conclusion, essentially, of presupposition of supernatural?
I'm trying to decide whether the stuff I'm being presented is science or not. I'm being told it's science. Like if I was telling you the Bible was science, I think you'd say the same thing to me. Well, how do we go about figuring out whether the Bible is science?
Well, I mean, I would think you would study what was observable, which is exactly what I did. I said to myself, okay, well, I know the Bible's true, right? If I know the Bible's true, it's okay if I set it aside for a second, start from a place of non-belief, non-confirmation bias, and just study what I can observe. Why does that not lead back to the Bible? It doesn't. It doesn't lead back to the Bible. That's how I became a believer in evolution, essentially, and in old Earth.
Yeah, I mean,
I challenge you to do that. I challenge that.
You only left here like 10 months ago, right?
Well, if I believe the Bible, and you know the Bible, right, in Hebrews 11, chapter 1, it says that faith is the things unhoped for, the evidence of things unseen. I have faith in Jesus Christ.
But
I don't have faith in men telling me this.
But Taylor, if your faith is Taylor, if your faith is misplaced, then it's not really a very strong epistemological foundation. Gregory here, he left Young Earth Creationism only like 10 months ago. I mean, he's a noob, and I mean that in a very
I am a noob
good way. But he recognized that look at the positions for what you have are just untenable any longer. And if I was in that position, and I think that thankfully I wasn't. I was never a Young Earth Creationist, but if I was, I know it'd be very difficult. But I'd have to come to the realization that okay, if this is the case, that the science is telling me this, and I'm going to go with the science, if I'm wrong about that, the worst case I can imagine would be God going, hey, you know what? I should have given you more evidence that the earth was young. I didn't, but you still had faith in me. You're still Christian. La-di-la-di-la, life is good. I don't think he would condemn somebody for somebody like myself or Gregory or anybody else. Look at the science and be educated. Give us the minds to understand things. Give us the intelligence to reason. Give us the empowerment to understand things like math and logic and science and physics. And then turn around and say, hey, look at, I was just fucking with you people. Hey, look, the Earth is only 7,000 years old. All this science was actually wrong, and you're going to hell. That is not my idea of a just God. Okay? Sorry. It's just not.
I agree.
Hey, Steve, is Gregory the young Earth creationist that you turned?
No.
Oh.
No, I'm young Earth Creationist, but I like young Earth Christian better. But no,
Well, no, there's a young Earth creationist that Steve actually gave
Wayne
the
Fillmore.
argument to that left young Earth creationism.
There's been a couple.
What's that?
well,
That was
Yeah,
Wayne Fillmore and Hunter Bailey both left.
if I was that into young Earth creationism, and I talked to Steve, I'd probably leave it myself.
And by the way,
But I'm not.
but Taylor,
I believe the Bible.
But Taylor, both of the ones that left, they're still Christians. Wayne Fillmore is
No,
still.
they're not. See, this is the thing.
Well, hang on.
I've been told so many things,
They're-
and yet you guys haven't convinced me of any of it.
Hang on, they're
We've
still
already-
Christians. You don't have to be a young Earth creationist to be a Christian. Okay, Wayne Fillmore is still a Christian. Hunter Bailey is working toward. He wants to get a PhD in divinity. He left young Earth creationism, but he's still a Christian. So,
All right.
so you don't
Let's
have to.
address this real quick.
Yeah, you don't accept
Steve,
that.
what is the definition of Christianity?
Somebody who, well, to me,
He's a
would be
disciple of Christ.
somebody who believes Christ was the divine and
No,
that
somebody-
follows his teachings.
Someone who follows the teachings of Jesus Christ. That Jesus
I don't-
Depends
Christ.
on your denomination.
Yeah, but
No, that depends on whether you believe science, right? That's the Webster Miriam.
I don't think Christ is going to
I
be
have-
upset if somebody
we can
follows science.
observe- Oh shit! My phone.
I-
All right.
I-
If you believe observable, right? The definition of Christianity
Who's making
is
all the
not
background noise?
Islam, right? They believe in Jesus. It's somebody who believes in the teachings of
They don't
Jesus.
believe Jesus is divine, though. They believe Jesus existed, but they don't believe Jesus is divine.
Yeah, I mean,
There's a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses that don't believe Jesus is divine. So
Well,
Gnostics too.
well, a lot of
That's you're arguing with the Webster Merriam Dictionary.
yeah, trust me, you know how I feel about dictionaries. We
All right.
try to have more
Right.
than second grade level talks around here. Anybody who argues from a dictionary is kind of shown the door because it's not. We like to have an actual conversation and not 10th and third grade.
Okay.
Hey Brian, is that
I
good?
mean, actually-
Hang on, is that
Actually,
good, Brian?
Taylor,
Hang on, Jay. Hang
the
on.
question-
Hang on. Is that Brian's stuffing his face? I'm just wondering if it's good. Yeah, it must be. Lunch break.
look, the thing is, Taylor,
muted,
is your
Brian.
question is almost impossible to answer because there are so many different sects of Christianity that define themselves in different ways. I mean, the short, easy answer is a Christian is someone who follows Christ.
They both of them follow Christ. It's just a different version than the Bible.
What's that?
The Muslims have a Jesus Christ. It's just a different version.
Well, he's a prophet though. He's not like he's not divine in Islam.
But then there's these Christians that are oneness Pentecostals, and they don't have a divine Jesus Christ. They have a glorified man, Jesus Christ, that came.
I think what you're doing is illustrating my point.
But you,
I'm pointing out the flaw in this argument that someone could be a Christian and believe in evolution.
I disagree. There's a billion Christians, and most of them do accept evolution.
Yeah.
All right, we'll phrase it for everyone.
Wait a minute.
Wait a
minute.
Say you're
Taylor,
a Christian
hold
and
on.
believe in evolution.
Taylor,
That's all
have
I
you
got
heard
to
of
say.
Taylor? Have you heard of soft tissue, dinosaur bone soft tissue?
Yeah, that's the stuff they find on the dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
Schweitzer.
Do you know who discovered that? Let me just
The
state you
person that dug it up, I'm assuming.
Dr. Mary Schweitzer.
Who's been a guest
Okay.
on this
Oh,
show?
yeah, I read an article on her.
Yeah,
That's the one in Canada.
No, she's not in Canada, but she's
That's
actually
the one they found in Canada.
she's actually been a guest on the show. Believe it or not, Taylor. Mary Schweitzer has actually been in here before.
Because I have to be convinced that
Hey,
someone's a
Bill.
Christian and not listen to Jesus' teaching.
Well, we have the Antichrist here himself, Bill.
I want to be convinced.
Oh,
Yeah, Christian.
Bill, the Hoven destroyer.
the Antichrist is here.
No, but Jesus says something, and it's not just in my King James Bible, it's in all the Bibles. He says that in the beginning, when he's talking to the Pharisees about divorce, he says, in the beginning, God, he said, man and woman, he created them. Okay, so in the beginning, you need a man and a woman to be there.
Yeah, I got some issues.
Or you don't believe Jesus.
Hang on, let's get Bill in
So,
here. Hang on.
Wait a minute. So,
Prove it, dude.
Hang
so
on.
there was a man and a woman in the beginning, and we all came from them, so we're all inbred.
This isn't, you guys are dodging that question. How can you be a Christian and believe that, right? That Jesus lied to you.
That's not a dodge. It's just I don't believe any of that. But anyways,
I'll address that
hang
question
on,
too.
hang on,
But
real
when
quick.
I ask a question, I assume that you're not going to ask a different question.
Taylor, hang on. I can't speak loud, so you got to like go with my flow here.
Oh,
First
my
of all,
bad,
I got to
my
get to
bad.
Puff first because I told Puff that I wouldn't forget him. Puff, did you have a question before we get to Bill? Because Bill's
Yeah, so I was just going on, okay, I understand that you go to the Bible and you're like the inerrancy of the Bible. Just a quick
I believe
question.
you.
Everyone here can stay silent. A bat is not it's not a bird, right? A bat is a mammal, right? It's from the rodent family, right?
No, I don't believe that. No.
wait.
It's
You
not
don't?
it's not a bird. It doesn't have feathers, does it?
I don't know why I should believe that all birds have to have feathers either.
All birds have feathers.
That's dogmatic. I want to know why I should believe that.
Because they do. Do you have an
That's
example of a bird that
dogmatic. I
doesn't
want to
have
know why.
feathers? Do you have an example of a
A
bird that
bat.
doesn't?
Let's say a bat.
A bat.
bat
oh,
is a
wait,
mammal.
Hang on. Wait, Taylor. I don't want to straw man. I want to make sure I hear you very clearly. Are you actually advocating that a bird is a mammal?
No, I'm entertaining this argument because somebody
Are
came
you
along.
actually advocating that a bat is a bird?
Or bat is,
No, I
bat
want
is
to
a
know
bird,
why.
I'm sorry.
I
A
want
bat
you
is
to
a mammal,
explain to
yes, but
me why
I'm
I
sorry.
should believe.
A bat is a mammal. It is not a bird. Are you actually advocating that it's a bird?
No, because I know the distinction between a bird and a mammal, but I want to know why I should believe it.
Because it produces milk. It lactates. Therefore, it's a mammal.
All mammals lactate.
They have hair too.
They have mammary glands. That's why they call them mammals. They have mammary glands.
Okay, but why should I believe that?
Do you know any birds that lactate?
That's what it is. That's how
I
it's
haven't
defined.
established that a bat's not a bird yet. I want to know why I believe.
And my
that.
second question: do insects have 4 legs or 6 legs?
Multiple. They have a bunch of legs.
No, insects have 6 legs.
They
I've
don't.
seen a centipede with like 100 legs. That's an insect, correct?
That is an arthropod.
Yeah, they're not insects.
So it's not an insect.
No, pill bugs.
No, that's an arthropod. That's in this.
millipedes
That'd
and-
be technically in the spider family. It's
Hey, I
not.
got one. Is a mustard seed the smallest seed?
No, it's the least of all seeds.
It's not though, because a
Poppy seeds.
poppy seeds are smaller, but also what's the
Li-
orchid seeds are
certain
much smaller. Orchid seeds are like dust.
That's right.
Not to stand up for Taylor, but he didn't say that it was the smallest. He said
It's
it was
the least
the
of
least.
seeds. Okay,
Meaning-
but
Well, I'm
Because
still,
he's a king.
This is
I'm
very
still,
bizarre.
I'm still really bizarre about this. I don't understand how anybody could think that a bat is a bird.
No, Steve, I don't believe a bat is a bird, but I understand that the Bible's not an English book, and I understand that people didn't know the bats and birds and stuff.
no. This is clearly
This is-
known to the Arabics at the time. The difference between a bat and a bird. They hunted with hawks, for goodness sakes.
You're saying that somewhere, right? When this was stated in the 13th century,
It was well known the difference between a bird and a bat
Okay, do you have evidence that this was well known? In the
because they
13th
had
century?
statues of them, man. They
Hey,
carved
Taylor.
giant stone statues of them.
That is
Hey, Taylor.
evidence that they knew the difference between a bird
They
and a
knew
bat.
what a bird and a bat was. A bat was considered a rat. They knew that it was not a bird.
Oh,
Birds were
Spider,
respected.
by the way, in the outside chat, spiders are not insects. They're
Arachnids.
They're arachnids. Arachnids in Anthropoidea, you have arachnids, you have insects, you have crustaceans. Millipedes are a type of crustacean. Those are all forms of Anthropoidea. So an arachnid has
I do
8
have a
legs,
question.
but insects have 6 legs.
Hold on, though. I
Yeah.
was
But they're
trying
both
to get it
anthropoidea.
together.
Bill?
Let me ask Taylor this. Taylor, do you believe the Bible to be the inerrant word of God?
Yes.
Okay, well then what's the deal with everything Puff was just asking you? If it's the inerrant word of God, how can you call those things wrong?
God messed up?
No, you're not presenting actual inerrancy. You're taking things like, well, there's a
No. These are things that you can test. You could go to any bridge in your local area at dusk or dawn, and you can prove that the Bible is incorrect in that one statement.
On a side note, not to interrupt anybody, I
don't believe
moderator.
You. So I want to ask you some questions now. I don't want to just
at least a minute.
Taylor,
my apologies.
Yeah, I got to mute because I can't speak over a bunch of people because I can't speak loud. So I can't have all this over talking. So I'm going to unmute you, Taylor. James, go ahead. James?
Oh, and my apologies for interrupting. I just noticed that sometimes I end up being a moderator in some of these things. I noticed that Taylor wasn't really been given adequate time to respond before he was getting interrupted. So maybe give him like 15 seconds and then kind of go back.
Yeah, that's fine. I agree with you. Real quick, I just got it. Flips has a super chat. So if you believe in science, you're no true Christian, then the Amish are the only true Scotsmen. Sorry, Christians. There you go. All right, Taylor, so you want to jump on that? And you won't be interrupted. What Puff was saying, that these clearly are instances where the Bible is just not correct. It's not a big deal to most Christians, but you can't claim infallibility if there's errors in the Bible, right? You cannot have a Bible that's infallible that has errors in it.
Don't have errors in it. I just get 3 dogmatics.
Let Taylor talk.
Sorry. Go ahead, Taylor.
Yeah, 15 seconds to answer 4 questions.
You get longer than that. Go ahead. Right. Take your time.
All right. A bat was a flying thing, right? They thought the birds flew.
They do fly.
Yeah, that's my point.
Okay.
Now, far off on the line, all right, people started classifying animals in zoology as birds, bats. Well, the bats have hair, so they're not birds, right? Where the birds have feathers, right? They didn't have that in the 13th century BC, and just because someone has a statue isn't sufficient evidence to be like, oh, they knew everything about zoology back in the 13th century BC. But am I going to believe that?
Okay,
this one thing though.
Let me throw you a lifeline. Taylor. Why don't you just give up the inerrancy portion, and you can still be a believer?
No, I believe in inerrancy of the Bible.
Okay, you want to stick with that? Okay, can we get to Bill Ludlow?
Yeah.
Bill Ludlow's been waiting for a while.
Yeah.
I'd like to hear from
you guys hear me
scientist.
all right?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Well, can you hear me all right?
Yep. You
hear me okay? Okay. All right, thanks. Yeah. Thanks for sending me the invite. So, hey, I got a question for Taylor on the inerrancy of the Bible. What about people that live to be 900 years old?
Yeah, I believe people live to be 900 years old once upon a time.
Do you have any evidence of that people have ever lived to be 900 years old other than what's written in the Bible?
No, just faith.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, if you believe something for whatever, I mean, to me, I find it kind of irrational, but it's not. You can't really fault them for the answer, I guess.
No, have you heard the argument where there's like more oxygen in the environment and stuff? So people were like giants and they made stone tools because they were in a hurry.
No, that's not okay. Let me correct.
It wasn't exactly that. Yeah, I mean, his argument about the people living to be 900 years old was because it was pre-flood and that's just the way it was. And then he says people lived to be right after the flood. They lived to be 400 years old, then 200 years old, then 100 years old, and now it's 70 years old. And I just did a video on this 3 days ago, so I'm pretty familiar with it.
There's something to be said about higher oxygen. When you had higher oxygen, insects, because the way they breathe through their legs, through holes, right?
Correct.
They can grow larger.
Get larger.
They're able to get
and larger in an environment like that is an advantage.
Right.
The problem is it's only an advantage in an environment like that. When the environment changes, it's no longer an advantage. And a lot of people point to dragonflies and insects that were once larger as evidence that things were all much bigger and better back then. And it's not true.
But it wasn't
there were also smaller smaller insects around at the same time,
But
and they're the ones that actually survived.
But the only ones that are going to affect by that higher oxygen level will be insects. You won't have like T-Rexes because of
correct.
that. It doesn't work
Right,
that way.
right.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And insects have the kind of body structure that allows them to get bigger. Mammals don't.
Right.
I mean, we would weigh ourselves down and kill ourselves if we got that much larger than we are. So it doesn't work.
Are you suggesting, Bill? Are you suggesting that a salamander did not turn into a T-Rex?
No, I was well, possibly. And also, what wasn't it? The Jackson's chameleon became Triceratops. Yeah, I remember that. That was one of them too. So yeah.
Because of oxygen.
Because of oxygen.
The
canopy,
velociraptors grew up and turned into shoe-billed pelicans.
All right, so real quick, CJ, did you want to ask a question? CJ, W? Okay, I guess not. Just to guys let you know, I'm going to be doing these Ask Whoever frequently. I got Ask an Astrophysicist coming up with Dr. Kroon. I got Ask a Biochemist with Sygart. I'm just going to, like, twice, 3 times a week, whatever it is, probably twice a week. Just have these hangouts like this and bring in an expert or bring in somebody to talk to and, have these late night hangouts. I think that people have been wanting somewhere to go late at night.
Ask an anthropologist.
Ask her what?
How about
Ask an anthropologist.
How about Ask a Buffoon with Mr. Intelligent Design?
Oh, that'd be Ask an Idiot.
Yeah,
No,
didn't he just get muted?
Same thing, Buffoon.
And by the way, Shannon, I'm not calling him an idiot. I'm just calling the show Ask an Idiot. That wasn't an insult. Doesn't count.
You're still on that?
I think I
Can
got
I
like 4
address
days
something
left
that
or
Taylor
something.
said earlier before I joined you guys? He was talking about Grecopithecus and that and asking why we don't talk about it. But, what we find now is we know of a lot of ape species that were in Europe. Apes were in Europe, 7 million, 8 million, 12 million years ago. We know that now. Lots of different types of apes. The reason we don't hear much about that species is there's very little evidence. I mean, for a long time, it was just a single jawbone. I think they have a couple other pieces now that they're attributing to that species.
Yeah, it's just a little mandible.
It's not considered in the line of hominins. It's not considered, in the ancestral line to us. And it's just really not, it's there, but it's just really not that important. Time period, 7 million years ago, we have Sahelanthropus. So you hear a lot about Sahelanthropus if you're in the paleoanthropology community. You hear a lot about it. So to answer your question, it's not buried, it's not hidden, it's just really not important.
Yeah, well, Bill, how many millions and millions and millions of species have died? And most of them didn't leave any record. So we probably have a lot of species that just, not really.
Right. What we've found now is that, 20, 30 years ago, they taught evolution was one step to the next. You'd see the march of progress type of thing, but now, in the last 30 years, one of the biggest things, at least in human origins, we've come to realize is that at any given time, there were many species alive at the same time. And it's not a ladder-like process from one species to the next. So that's the difference.
But Bill,
it's always been like that.
But evolution never taught the March of Progress. The March of Progress was a diagram for a magazine that the illustrator.
But you saw people use it as an example all the time. And basically, it was looking at the fossils we had at the time.
Sure.
That's all we had. Once the Leakeys found habilis and, they found Australopithecus africanus, we had that. And, even before Lucy, they were using that type of an image because that's really all the fossils we had at the time.
So. Bill, I wanted to ask you if you can, to give a more in-depth explanation of how you're talking about the body plan of an insect. If it gets really big, it's not good when the environment changes, right? So if you could expand on how the Neanderthals, even though they were bigger, stronger, and more capable to the point where they could actually take on megafauna by themselves, or heads up or in a group, but because of that, they never developed ranged weapons, which Homo sapiens did, and that became a deciding advantage and a deciding factor in their advantage for Homo sapiens versus Neanderthals, correct?
Yeah, Neanderthals are such a hot topic again right now. I mean, it's a really exciting time to be involved in that type of thing because, I mean, they really, we're learning a lot all the time. We've got all the genetic information now. There's been new fossil discoveries. I mean, the Denisovans too. We're learning that there's another archaic hominin species similar, closer to the Denisovans, maybe a subspecies or a separate species from them, but closely related in Southeast Asia. But Neanderthals were different than us. We had a common ancestor with them around, we think, about 700,000 years ago. They evolved in a different direction than us. They evolved all the traits that are separate and different from us in a colder climate in Europe, in response to their environment. They seem to be specialized hunters and big game and that type of thing. But they didn't. Their technology went a different way. As far as stone tools and what we see them using up till, let's say, 200,000 years ago, I mean, pretty close to us. But Homo sapiens, starting within 50 to 100,000 years ago, just started technology-wise beating them leaps and bounds. It seems with like we said, projectiles.
Kind of the way that like what was explained to me was that humans, like Homo sapiens and Neanderthals, both developed a spear. But because Neanderthals were stronger and more capable, they used it in a hand-to-hand or close quarters combat type of thing with big megafauna. Whereas Homo sapiens, because they were smaller, more fragile, and were predated so much that they developed the atlatl, which was a deciding advantage. You could throw it doubled the range of a spear that you could throw it at a lethal speed.
Real quick,
right?
Real quick, CJ, your mic working now?
Can you hear me?
All right, let Pelelo go, and then CJ will want to ask a question. So
I think we covered that pretty good. Okay. I think we did, but I think you're right. I would just add that there was something 50 to 70,000 years ago with our species, which that's where we see the dawn of what we really consider art compared to like modern art. It's when we think that there was just a big cognitive difference that we don't see examples of that in Neanderthals. Up until that point, I mean, even brain size with early archaic humans was pretty close to Neanderthals, and some of them.
Because didn't Neanderthals have a bigger brain?
Yes, bigger brain than modern human skull, and population that was in East Africa, huge skulls, huge brains. Of course, you got to look at body size in relation to that too, and body mass, because even though Neanderthals were slightly shorter than us, they were more massive than us. So if you look at the encephalization quotient, it's probably not as different as you would think. But anyway, it seems like something happened with us 50, 60,000 years ago that didn't happen with them. By then, their populations were already on the decline. We can tell that. We can see that there was interbreeding, that there was evidence in the genetic information that we have, that there were smaller populations, and they just dwindle out.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there is a hypothesis that the reason why we have Neanderthal genes is because in an effort to keep their lineage going, females left from Neanderthal tribes and kind of like found human tribes that would, kind of take them in because they weren't.
I haven't really heard that. It's interesting. I just put a video out today on Old Earth Creationists, what Fuzz Rana said about that. And these guys were saying basically that the reason we have Neanderthal genes in us is that we were victims of bestiality with Neanderthals. So
that's pretty
Old Earth
weird.
Creationists they have a whole different view on it. Young Earth Creationists will say that Neanderthals were the same as us, no different, descendants of Adam. Old Earth Creationists maintain that we're a separate creation and that they're animals. And they have a bigger problem with the interbreeding than the Young Earth creationists do. It's really on it today, and I was shocked. I mean, I'm listening to these guys talk about bestiality with Neanderthals, and I'm going, wow.
So what you're saying? So what you're saying is we were raped by Neanderthals.
That's what they were saying. I'm not saying that.
So okay.
I think
so
both of
basically,
them would probably do whatever they wanted with either one when they had the chance. I mean, humans are humans, and we've been the same way for a long time. And some of them might have been attracted to each other, or whatever. But
we should start our own.
We're learning it
we
has
should
a lot
start
to
our
do
own
with
YouTube movement.
hybridization. Yeah.
Me too. So real quick, Bill. I guess Fuzzrana and Josh are going to be doing something. They wanted some people to debate him, but I'm not going to worry about what Josh Brister wants.
Okay.
Apologies.
Yeah, I'm really interested in talking to Fuzzrana.
I know. I want to arrange that. I'm not going to go through that through Josh. I'm going to go through Reasons to Believe. If you still want to have a conversation with Fuzzrana, I'm sure they're going to probably arrange it on the Non Sequitur show. I just need to know exactly what topic it has to be on. In detail.
Right. I want it to be on human origins because there's an awful lot to cover and talk about. And I just got their book, Who Was Adam, the updated version, because I've been accused of picking on their old material. And I'm still seeing their old material isn't that much different than what they're saying now.
I'll talk to Anastasia about it, their secretary. She's really
awesome.
Hey, Taylor.
Yeah.
Taylor. Oh, you still here?
Yeah, he's still here.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm watching on a laptop because I got it.
All right.
Oh, okay. I thought you were zoning out on us, buddy.
No, I'm watching. I'm watching.
Hey,
I can see everything better on them.
Not to beat a dead horse or anything, but I just want to go back a little bit to an inconsistency in something you were saying. Okay, you said you believe in the inerrancy of the Bible, that it's the inerrant God, but then you were going on to make some excuses as to why there was inaccuracies in the Bible. You were saying how, well, people back then didn't know the difference between birds and bats, even if they had a. But the thing is if the Bible is inerrant,
well, that's my point. Yeah,
there can't be inaccuracies in it. And here you're saying it's inerrant, but then you're trying to make excuses for why there's inaccuracies in it.
No, because to your standard, then that would make your evolution inerrant because there's things you didn't know then that you know now.
But it's not. We're not talking about what we know. We're talking about what God knows. If the Bible is the inerrant word of God, then it shouldn't have any inaccuracies in it. And you're claiming it's the inerrant word of God, yet there are inaccuracies within the Bible.
Yeah, I would go one further. Inerrancy means there's no errors. Infallible means there cannot be any errors. And I think that he's actually advocating for the stronger
it's not an error. They're fixated on something that's trivial like this.
Well, that is an error, though.
It would be an error if you said, like, the bats will grow feathers and shit, or like there's honey in the stomach of a bee, like the Quran does. Because that's just absolutely false. He's calling them the bats or birds and stuff, and that's probably what they thought. That's probably their linguistic.
But should still be an error.
But you're talking about what they thought. What does it have to do with what they thought? It's the word of God.
God would know better.
And this is what I'm saying, is that even if God was speaking through someone that had to use their own words at that time, those people, that culture, there was people that hunted with hawks. It was well known. They knew the difference between a bird and a bat.
Okay, because
they avoided bats. We had superstitions about them at that time, that they were separate. Other cultures had superstitions about them. So what I'm saying is,
where is your evidence that they knew the difference between a bird and a bat? A bird was not a bat.
Because prior to them, they were making stone statues of birds. The
How
birds that they
prove that.
All right, well, this conversation is not going anywhere.
Because
hang on, Puff.
This is why. Because you have to know
anywhere.
you have to be familiar with an animal to know its anatomy like that. Correct?
What?
You'd have to be extremely familiar with an animal to know its anatomy to depict it in such a way that thousands of years later it's easily recognized.
All right, I'm moving on because that's not going anywhere. CJ, my friend CJ from my Down Under.
Down Under.
Yeah. So are you
Bottom of the world, y'all.
Are you still hanging on for dear life? You haven't fallen off into the sun yet?
Nah. Well, yeah, no, it's a flat Earth, so I can't fall off unless I go to the.
Well, you and Red Eyes worry me, man. I mean, one day I'm going to hear a story about the Australians that just fell off under the sun. So
yeah, Australia don't exist.
So what do you got for us, CJ? I know you're a kind of a wool in the cloth young Earth creationist, although that you've come a long way in your evolutionary thing since 5 years ago.
I hold fast. The simple reason why I hold fast to the Earth being young is because I've looked into the 7-day creation or the 6-day creation, and it's been and I've come to the conclusion through research, just biblical research and all that it's a literal 7 days. So it's literal 6 days, and I'm fine with that. I'm settled with that now. I'm settled with that, but I'm open to the fact that down the track, I find evidence that shows it is older than 6,000 years old or something. I'm open to that. At the same time, it's not going to stray me from my faith.
So how do you reconcile the two? And by the way, every biblical scholar I know does not say 7,000 years. They all say that it's an indeterminate period of time. It could be any value.
What
average? Because it can vary. I mean,
so what scholar?
What evidence? I was going to say, what evidence are you looking for? Are you looking for biblical evidence or scientific evidence?
If I may interject for 1 second, just as a former young Earth Christian or creationist,
sure.
I looked at the biblical timeline, and from Adam to Noah to Jesus, it can only go back so far. And so that's why I arrived at the conclusion of 7,000 years. And that's also why Ken Ham and company arrives at that as well.
Yeah. And I mean, it varied. Like it varies. You're not going to get an exact amount unless you actually did it yourself, because people can have their own ideas about it. But I mean, I'm fine with it being a literal 6 days of creation. I see that in scripture, and I'm fine with that. I'm not going to be swayed from that. But I'm open to the idea that possibility it could be a bit older. I don't know. For me, I have no idea, but I'm not interested in looking into it because I don't need to. All I'm trying to do is grow my faith, and that's the most important thing to me. And I think a lot of these discussions about old Earth, young Earth, is one of those things that can potentially sway, cause unnecessary arguments between non-Christians and Christians, just like flat Earth, round Earth, just like evolution and the Bible in general. There's a lot of arguments that can over it that don't need to be there.
Don't you think it can also cause a lot of arguments, unnecessary arguments between Christians too? I mean,
absolutely. Yes.
I've asked some young Earth creationists directly when I've had discussions and that with them, I say, is it a salvation issue? And they'll always say, no, it's not a salvation issue. Well, then why are you making such a big deal out of it?
Yeah,
why?
My argument is this:
is it even important? And why are you using dinosaurs to sell it to children?
Yeah, my argument is this: if you are going to be hanging on to a young Earth creationist narrative, much like a flat Earth narrative, I firmly believe that it hobbles your ability to understand science properly. Now, obviously, there's outliers. There's obviously PhDs that are young Earth creationists, which I no longer believe are scientists. So I think this holds to them. I think they get so much basic shit wrong that I don't even understand how they can even consider themselves even knowledgeable any longer. When you have a PhD title and you get basic stuff wrong, there's a problem. But if you hang on to these narratives in school that your Earth is young or flat, you've limited yourself. You're not going to be the persons that get hired by these big names to do scientific stuff, because they're going to go, you're just scientifically inept. Can it happen? Sure. And do young creationists still get jobs? But but I still think that it hobbles a person's ability to really understand concepts properly. So I think it's more than just argumentation, CJ. I think it's more than just it's Christians against non-Christians, or atheists against theists, or whatever. I think it's a fact that this is science. Science is objective. These are facts. These are things that no young Earth creationist has ever demonstrated that are incorrect. They just by fiat don't want to accept it. They say, I'm going to accept the Bible. Anything that goes against it has to be wrong. That's fine and dandy for them. But one thing about Taylor, at least Taylor said, he's not trying to introduce creationism into school. He's fine with evolution being taught at school. Okay, I don't have a huge issue with that. But I do know creationists that want creationism taught in school. And I'm sorry, I will fight tooth and nail to the day I die against that fuckery. It is not going to happen on my watch. I know Bill will fight against that. I know Aaron Ra fights against that. That is something that we all have something in common, because we have kids, we have friends that have kids. I don't want my daughter growing up ignorant. I just don't.
Yeah, I just don't understand why when you say it's a non-issue or it's not that important, I don't see how science literacy and understanding is a non-issue. It doesn't matter. I just want to grow in my faith. I don't understand that at all. The reason we've gotten to this point is because people went out and did the work and became scientifically literate. And this is why we're talking to each other right now.
Yeah, I think
this is why we're able to have a face-to-face conversation, because somebody was behooved enough to be science literate and to take it seriously.
Yeah, I mean, I love you, CJ. I've known people don't know CJ. I've known CJ 5 years. I mean, he was one of the first people I've ever had in a hangout. So we go way the hell back. But CJ's going to even point out he's not going to become a rocket scientist. You know, he likes his faith. It works for him. You know,
that's fine.
I get that, right? I mean, he's not a dumb guy by any means, but he's not going to go into a scientific field. It's just not going to happen. But he's a nice guy, and this stuff works for him. As long as he's not advocating that you teach this stuff in school, I don't have an issue. At
the end of the day, there has to be a freedom between someone that wants to grow up and into the science and the evolution, but they also have to have a freedom to express themselves in the sense of, well, I want to go down the route of being a Christian and all that. So, and that's the only thing that I have a concern about.
Fair enough.
The difference. That's all.
Let me demonstrate what that freedom. Let me demonstrate what that freedom leads to. I went to a young Earth Christian school all 12 years. Okay, I wasn't taught fuck all about science unless it was from a young Earth creationist standpoint. Now, the freedom that you talk about, not only affects you, it affects others. And this freedom, this very loose freedom of religion, affects a lot of people. Okay, I'm one of them.
Yeah, you got to point them.
So I'm not
everything.
I'm not talking about freedom of religion, though.
No,
okay, young Earth creationism that is a religion.
Different things. No,
that is a
Christian. The true Christian faith is not a religion. It is a relationship with the living God. It is. You see it in Scripture.
Hang on. It's semantics.
Okay. James talks about a pure religion. Let's not quabble and dissect definitions.
I think the point Brian's trying to make is that, and I've seen this be often the case, that young Earth creationists, and everyone I've ever met, I mean, no offense, they're just not that scientific literate. And even when they leave young Earth creationism, they have a lot way to go. I mean, I'm sure Brian opened a lot of book since then and go, shit, there was so much that I didn't know about. And it's weird for people like myself, and I don't mean to sound condescending. I know people always say like Steve Smug or condescending. I'm not trying to be. But had I not learned some basic shit in high school and elementary school and gifted and talented classes and accelerated classes, I would have been fuck all later on in life. It would have screwed me, because there's no possible way you can go back and fill some of those holes without a lot of freaking work. And it can be done.
Hashtag order your smugs now on Not Secular.
I've got my smug.
Science is amazing, like straight up. Like there's so much things that we benefit from because of scientists. Like I absolutely agree with that, and I love scientists. I respect them and all of that. I absolutely do. But there are some things that obviously that comes through science and evolution that potentially don't line up. I guess if that's the right wording with the scripture, maybe they come to butt heads, and I'm fine with that because that's not my concern.
Okay. Well, fair enough. Like I said, I people like you and Taylor are not really the people that I'm really kind of going after that much. You're cordial. I disagree with you, but
but there are Christians that can use the Bible and defend a flat Earth.
Yeah.
I actually debated a flat Earth.
Oh, sure.
Earth Christian for 3-4 days. My mind exploded.
But Brian, who would you rather
go? There's more evidence in the Bible that the Earth is flat than there is that it is young.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
But here's the thing,
it's
Brian.
The flat Earth Christians that they're deceived, as far as I'm concerned. I just.
But I want to ask Brian.
But they would tell you the same thing.
I want to ask Brian
Yes,
questions.
absolutely they would. And there's so much division in the body of Christ and in the Christian faith. It's ridiculous.
All right, so let me ask Brian a question.
The big issue.
Brian, who would you rather change their position? Somebody like CJ, which CJ doesn't have a following. Nobody knows who the hell he is. The only reason I remember him because, like I said, I've been in hangouts with him many times. But you rather? I mean, he lives his life. He's happy. He's content with it. Would you want to change his position, or would you rather have somebody like Ken Hovind or Ken Ham wake up one day and go, "Fuck, I was wrong"?
Well, okay, Okay, the law of averages, you could say that Kent Hovind and Kent Ham have a larger sphere of influence, but you cannot underestimate the influence of bad beliefs and wrongful thinking.
And I don't doubt you. In matter of fact, I almost would say that I'd rather change CW's mind, only because I think that the other ones, even if they change their mind, they wouldn't care.
Well,
They still would be lying
okay.
their ass off.
And as far as I'm concerned, Kent Hovind is extremely evil.
Yes.
A disgusting man. I mean, once you start listening to what he actually is, I mean, a woman was about ready to lose her house and she needed legal representation. The lawyer working for Kent Hovind decided to volunteer some of his time to help her out for free. Kent Hovind got upset about that and said, wait a minute, and he's recording this conversation. This is how stupid this man is. He records this conversation and he puts it out on the internet. He records himself saying, well, you know what? You're working for me. What this woman can sell her car, sell her shoes, or borrow from her neighbors. His exact words. That guy is a piece of shit, and he's evil.
Of course
he is. That's what I was just going to say too.
Sorry.
I think Kent Hovind's doing fine right where he's at. He doesn't need to change his mind because he's winning more hearts for the opposite of what he
makes a lot of
actually. You know what?
I was going to say the exact same thing. Yeah. Hovind and Ham are doing more for. Well, unfortunately for them, more for atheism than they are.
I agree.
Can I take a moment just to disagree for just a little? Is that my grandparents just took my kids to the Ark Encounter. Now, I'm an atheist, but my kids don't really know what to believe because I indoctrinated them into Christianity before I left Christianity. And so they're still developing their own skepticism and reason. But the Ark has so many things that can brainwash a young mind, from animatronic dinosaurs to exhibits to explanations of matching the biblical timeline. That Ark is more damaging to another generation of Christians than a Christian online who's just a younger.
I can't disagree with you, but I got to tell you, I think the traffic in the Ark's going way down, and I think a lot of people, because of people like Aaron and Bill and other people, have actually, argued, the how bullshit the Ark actually is. I think it's not having as much of effect as it used to. You always gonna have those diehard believers,
I think they do a great job of roping in the children and getting the children to believe it when they're at that age. But what's going to happen? I'd be really interesting to see. How old are your children right now? The ones that just went to the Ark?
The one was 14, the other one is 9, and then the 5-year-old.
I mean, if you remember me,
3 kids, and no wonder you're tired all the time.
Give me a shout in 5 or 6 years and tell me what that 14-year-old thinks once he's gone to college, or he's actually learned some real things about geology or about paleoanthropology, or about if he's interested in those subjects.
The thing, though, is that Christians can streamline you right into a box. Like, you can go from a protective Christian home to a protective Christian school to a protective Christian college, and you don't know any better.
Yeah.
True, but other people that are exposed to that at an early age, and they're told basically you have to believe this or else. You have to believe this, or if you don't believe this, you're rejecting the Bible. A lot of those people, when they get to a certain point, they go to Institute of Higher Learning, they start to question it. are going to lose their faith altogether.
Yeah.
So yes, he's going to make some people that are susceptible to it stronger believers. Other people, he's just going to drive them away from the religion altogether.
And we've seen it happen in real time, and we've literally seen that happen to people. We got some questions, so hang on, people. Puff, you got your hand up, so go ahead and up next, and we have a caller that called in. So, Puff, go ahead with your question. Or was it you just had your hand up for nothing? All right.
Well,
Okay.
I've got to go, Steve.
All right,
I just jump in and sort of, I'm that random fellow that just jumps in randomly.
Always a
Sorry
pleasure,
about
man.
that, Steve. I had both my mutes on. I apologize.
Okay, no problem. All right, thank you, CJ.
But no, I just want to take my opportunity to thank you in person, because you had encouraged me to go back to school and finish my education.
Who, me?
So yeah, because when you
How'd I do
found out
that?
I wasn't, because when I told you I wasn't a high school graduate, you were like, you should go back.
Well, yeah. I
And
mean,
so I'm about to get my high school diploma,
awesome. Well,
and
that's a
or
huge
my high
congrats,
set
man.
equivalent. And Brian inspired me to actually go to college. So I'm going in the fall for my HVAC license and all that. So I actually have a career instead of a job.
HVAC is, dude, HVAC will always have a market, okay? Definitely for HVAC. But no, I mean, that's outstanding. You know, I hear these stories all the time about people that have decided to go back to school or further education or get interested in topics, and it's because they've listened to us. We don't have big channels. This is not a big channel. Non Sequitur Show isn't even really a big channel. There are big channels out there, people that 100, 150, 200,000, 250,000, a million. But I don't see a lot of people really being influenced by those channels. Does that make sense? I see a lot of, entertainment value for some people, but I don't see the amount of people messaging like they have, like for the Non Sequitur Show. And I'm not trying to like diminish other channels, but how, for the very few exceptions, they really haven't been very inspiring to anybody to go back and learn more, because they're just kind of myopic. A lot of the atheist channels out there that I've seen, because how much it's okay. God doesn't exist. Okay, move on. Atheist experience. Yeah, I mean, sure. They're I like listening to experience them and stuff. But how many people have been moved to go back and get an education because of atheist experience? I don't think it's probably that many. I would be surprised, but it could be wrong. Maybe they
yeah, and then also from having debate roulette and getting us involved in debate, it allowed me to get like 100% on my persuasive essay. So because I was like, well, I'm involved in this debate thing, and the guy was like, that a persuasive essay is just a written debate, right?
Yeah,
I was like, oh shit.
Yeah, well, it's a good team building thing too. I mean, you learn to interact with people. You learn how to have better discussions. You learn not to have fallacies. Yeah, it's a huge skill set. Trust me, 6 years ago, I couldn't have done what I do now. No possible way. I didn't have the skill set for it. I was learning. I knew that. I knew some of the topics, but nothing like I know now. But anyways, we got a caller that wants to join us, I think, right now. So the person who called in on the phone. But thank you, Puff. That means a lot to us.
Nice to meet you.
All right, so who do we have calling in here from 661 area code? Wherever that is.
It's not Minnesota, is it?
Caller, you're on the air.
Kern County. Ooh, that's yeah.
California, it's north of you, huh?
Yeah, I didn't even recognize that. All right, do you want to say something there? Like, okay, never mind then. All right, so, anyways, Taylor, I wanted to thank you. I'm going to be wrapping this up. This was fun. If you guys have like ideas of who you want to talk to, I'm going to, like I said, I have an astrophysicist, biochemist lined up, more philosophy stuff lined up. I've got a BDSM coming up, I think, when Brittany gets to a I don't know if you guys know this, but Brittany decided to take 6 months to go around the United States. She's driving around the United States to tour.
Around the world?
Well, not driving around the world, but driving around the United States. So wherever she has access to, like an internet. But if you guys haven't watched the discussion I had with her on her channel, go check it out. It was really fun. I adore her so much. She's just a great human being, and we really had a great discussion. But I wanted her to come on to talk about BDSM. I thought that'd be interesting. Ask a BDSM expert.
What is her channel?
Oh my.
Brittany Simon.
Brittany Simon.
Yeah, on YouTube. I will put the.
I think Bill was shouting back to that BDSM comment when he said around the world.
It was a joke. Yeah.
Holy crap! I mean, my talk with her has 1.3 thousand views in 3 days. That's not bad.
Wow.
Because she only gets. I mean, her one from a week ago only had 1,000.1. So this has more than she did with a hangout she had from a week ago. So, and by the way, my hair was blown all place.
Could you have Ask a Discount Garden Gnome and have Kyle on?
What, Ask a Discount Garden Gnome?
Yeah.
Oh, I got one more question. So I tell you what, I'll ask Frustrated Atheist this question. If you guys go sub to Brit and leave her a message in the comment section on that video, let them know what you think. So far, the comments have been great. People really enjoyed listening to that discussion. They were like doing stuff around the house and just listening to her and I converse. And I thrilled when people have those kinds of responses, because that's what the kind of conversations I like. I like just people talking. I can sit around and just listen to it. I can take a walk. I can listen to it. I don't have to look at anything. I don't have to think about anything. I just listen. Those are my favorite kind of actually videos to actually watch. I really don't like the high production value videos. They don't do much for me. I just like the conversation, the hangouts. But that's just me. So Frustrated Atheist had a question. I'm trying to paraphrase it, so hopefully I get it right. Taylor, he wants to know what you think about the two narratives of, was it Genesis or the Flood? I don't remember.
What two narratives of the flood? You mean Genesis, chapter 1 and 2?
I'm trying to find an exact question. Frustrated Atheist, if you want to ask it again.
Genesis chapter 1 and 2, because there's only one flood.
Oh yeah, well, that's right. You actually.
This is another typical atheist, and it's very clear that Genesis 1 is chronological. Genesis 2 is not chronological. It covers the 6th day in the garden.
So yeah, he wants to know about the flood, but I don't know what his exact question was.
No, the flood, yeah. I believe there was a world flood. There was a boat with all the animals on it, and there's no way in hell that could have happened without a living God.
Well, I don't think even you do realize. I mean, so you really So you would agree that if there's no intervention by a deity, that whole narrative is completely physically impossible.
I've said that from the gate. That's why I agree with Bill when he said that what they're showing the dinosaurs to kids. Yeah, they are showing kids dinosaurs, and they are going, look, guys, young Earth creation, and they're getting this big following. What it's doing is contributing to lawlessness. And that's what, because we have, these guys they're ultra conservatives and stuff, and they get the kids to believe this, right, the young Earth creation narrative, which is false in many cases, like what Kent Hovind's saying, where the people live with massive amounts of oxygen, and they started, right, they're very scientifically lived 900 years and then went down to like a couple hundred, 400, 300, 200, they started to shrink and devolve and stuff. You can see that in the genome. That's not what the Bible says. The Bible says that God said, I will not live with you guys anymore. You guys are only going to live 120 years. It's either that or you don't believe that.
Well, his question was specifically, I asked him when he thought of the multiple narratives of the flood, since the flood story has doublets in it, which by biblical scholars indicates multiple authors.
I'd like to research those biblical scholars. I just don't want to take someone's word for it.
Okay. Well, anyways, I tell you what, Taylor will probably check this video later on and for comments. So if you want to leave him some comments on it, that's fine as well. I'll leave the video link to our hangout with Brittany in the video description. Matter of fact, I'm going to put it in there right now before I forget. I'm going to put it at the very top.
I just went and subbed to Brittany and was checking out the first part of that video.
Oh, it's really good.
Brian, was that Grandpa's old cough medicine you were sipping over there? It was quick and kind of undercover.
It's called unsweetened tea, pure leaf, bitch.
But anyways, my point is she's gonna be out of town, roaming around for 6 months. I'm already missing her. But when she gets to a place where she has good internet, she'll be on. So she's not going away permanently. But anyways, I want to thank you guys. Bill, always a pleasure.
Thank you. Hey, I got a new Kent Hovind video coming out tomorrow. You know, I did
Ooh.
one 3 days ago. It's had almost 7,000 views, which is like a record for my channel as far as, I mean, not total views, but in that much time. So I realize people want more Hovind. So I got another one coming out tomorrow. I'll probably do one on him every week or two as we're going. So check it out. Just Bill Ludlow on YouTube. And
Nice.
I put out, I don't know, 20 videos in the last month. So been pretty prolific over there putting out new
So how does
material.
it feel? Did you realize when you were having the debate with Hovind that you were going to become some prolific YouTube personality?
Not really, and I'm not really. I still only have like 1,400, 1,300 subscribers or whatever, you know. But I've just been involved in the debate for so long. I mean, but I was kind of in the background, you know. I mean, I was in different Facebook groups. I've been on different internet forums for, you know, almost 20 years on different internet forums discussing this stuff. I knew Hovind's stuff inside and out. I mean, it's just the opportunity to finally be able to face the guy one-on-one like that was amazing.
I think it put you out there, though. I think it put it out there, and I'm proud of you.
Thanks. And I tried to do it in a way that wasn't offensive to the other side. And you know, I've actually had, I don't know how many people have written me and thanked me and said it was kind of a divisive moment for them, you know, to see the evidence presented in such a way that they could understand it and refuted what he'd been saying all along. And yet it wasn't antagonistic. I didn't attack their beliefs. I attacked what he had been presenting.
Yeah, that's why I liked it too.
Yeah, and so, I mean, it really did make a difference for a lot of people, and that I'm grateful for.
So I'm going to leave you guys with this. I do want to do Ask an Idiot. Please leave in the comment section of who you think the idiot should be. Okay? And no, Brian G. is not an idiot. Stop it, people.
Are we still live, Steve?
We are not, but I will go off here in a second here. So
I just wanted to ask Bill a question, but I didn't want to ask him it on live.
Okay. Did our caller from 6601 have a question real quick? Because I heard him say something. No,
that was me about the comment on your trimmed beard, Steve.
Okay. So yeah, as you guys noticed, I trimmed the beard. I went over to Brittany's and I knew I was going to do a collab with her. I want to look presentable. I actually, you know what? I like the long. Don't get me wrong, but I got to tell you, it's a clean cut. You know, and I'm working my tan. I'm going to get contacts. I might dye my hair. I'm going to be hopefully visiting Sweet Heathen up in Boston here this summer. And I'm going to take her on a proper date, and I want to look nice. What's wrong with that, right?
Steve, I got to tell you, when I first tuned in tonight, and I'm going, what is different about Steve?
Weird.
And it took me a minute, and I got to tell you, for some reason, with that beard trimmed, you look younger, you look thinner, you just look great. Leave it that way.
Well, like I said,
Gosh, you might inspire me to do the same.
I you know what? I realized this. I couldn't compete with Bill's, and so I figured let him have it. I got the hair. So
if it takes off years and weight, I'm going to follow you.
Yeah. Well, I am losing some weight too, but I'm going to get in shape again. I was in shape for a while, but you know, I'm one of those people that fluctuate. So, anyways, guys, good night. If you have any suggestions for
Steve.
Yeah.
Steve, real quick. Sure. Next time when you have a caller call in, there's a code you have to punch in to unmute yourself. I think it's 2 or 3 digits. One of them's a star.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the sequence, but if you miss it, you'll be muted and you won't know you're muted.
Okay, that's good to know.
Ooh, all
right. So let me know what you guys want to do for Ask a Person. Like I said, I've got a whole bunch of things lined up. I'll probably do it twice a week, late night, like this. Won't people talk loud, but I think they're entertaining. We get about 150 people watching. That's good enough. I mean, that's fun, and you guys can call in to be part of it. So, and like I said, ask an idiot. Tell me which one you have on that I can get, by the way. Don't try to get an idiot that I can't get it. So,
I know Lawrence Krauss. I can get him.
You got him from us last time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he's not an idiot.
He's not.
I loved that conversation I had with Lawrence. And by the way, before I go off air, I don't know if you talked to him at all before or after, but during that discussion I had with Lawrence, was it my imagination, or did he really seem like he was really grateful to have interesting questions asked to him for a change?
He was. I think he was. I think he enjoyed it. I don't think he'd done anything publicly in a while. And also, you know, Kyle forwarded me just a message on YouTube that somebody had sent. He sent me like a screenshot of it. Said, "Could you forward this to Lawrence?" And you just it was somebody that was just really appreciative of what he's doing and still doing. And I forwarded that to Lawrence Krauss email, and I got a great email back saying thank you for sending that.
Well, good. I mean, if you ever send him off again, let him know I appreciate having a conversation with him. And if he's welcome back on. Like this channel, I'd love to have him just come on and shoot the shit. I mean, if he gets bored, he's
right.
I love
He's
that.
got a lot going on now with the Origins Project. They have it's moved out of ASU now. It's its own foundation. They're doing 2 trips this next year where they're going to, I think, Yellowstone and Laos, Cambodia area. I've been talking with them. They're possibly doing a trip to Africa, which I may be involved in next year. So it'd be awesome. Human Origins trip.
All right. Well, there you go. All right. Good night, all. Like I said, I put the link in the video description for Brittany. It's in the video description itself. Do me a favor, go sub to her, comment in the video description, and actually watch it. I think it's really, really good. I'm trying to promote her channel because I don't know why she's got 68,000, I don't know, subs, but she's a really good friend, and I do want to do more collabs with her. So if she gets a lot of hits on that video and she sees people like entertained by her and I talking, I'm sure she'll do more, even though I know she'll do more anyways. All right, so good night.